$40. That's all it takes. For just $40, you can put your own face up on one of the giant screens in Times Square, right in the middle of New York City, where it feels like the whole world is looking. And yet, on another screen, just a short walk away, one single company once paid around $2.5 million for about a month. Same streets, same crowds, same blinding lights. But one price is the cost of a nice dinner, and the other could buy you a house. So how can the very same place cost $40 for one person and millions for another? That gap, that strange, enormous gap, is the whole story of how advertising in Times Square actually works. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why almost everyone who buys a spot on these screens is buying it for completely the wrong reason. And if you like pulling back the curtain on how money really works in the world, do me one quick favor and tap that subscribe button. It genuinely helps more than you'd think. And trust me, you don't want to miss where this one ends up. All right, let's get into it. Let's start with the crowd, because the crowd is really the thing you're paying for. Every single day, around 360,000 people walk through Times Square. That's an entire small city flowing past these screens every day, all year long. There is nowhere else on earth where so many eyes pass through such a tiny handful of streets. So when you rent a screen here, that endless river of people is what your money is really buying. Now here's something most people have no idea about. Those huge glowing signs aren't only there because companies want them there. In Times Square, the law actually demands them. Back in the 1980s, the city passed a rule saying that buildings in this exact part of town must cover their walls in big, bright, lit-up signs. Most cities try to keep billboards under control. New York did the complete opposite right here. It made them mandatory. So that wild wall of light you picture when you imagine Times Square isn't some happy accident. It's literally built into the rules of the city. So who pays what? Think of it like a ladder, with steps running from surprisingly cheap all the way up to almost unbelievable. On the very bottom step is that $40 option I mentioned. There's an app that lets ordinary people upload a short 15-second video onto one of the big screens. A tourist with a phone can light up Times Square for a few seconds, for less than the price of dinner. But here's the catch that most people miss. That cheap screen is its own separate thing. It's mostly made for regular people sharing personal moments, not for big companies running ads. So you're not quite standing where the giant brands stand. You're on your own little stage right next door in the same dazzling square. A few steps up the ladder, you reach where most real campaigns actually live. A short clip that plays on repeat sharing a screen with other ads can cost anywhere from a few $100s a day to several thousand depending on how long you run it and which screen you choose. Move up to one of the better screens for a full month, and now you're suddenly talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. And right at the top of the ladder is pure spectacle. Taking over an entire screen, all by yourself for a whole day, can cost tens of thousands of dollars. And on the biggest night of the year, New Year's Eve, when the entire planet is watching that famous ball drop, a single night on the right screen can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. Just stop and sit with that for a moment. The cheapest option and the most expensive option use basically the same kind of screen on the same wall in front of the same crowd. But one costs $40 and the other can cost more than $500,000. But honestly, the price isn't even the strangest part of this story. The strangest part is who these screens are really for. And I promise you, it's not who you'd ever guess. So keep that in the back of your mind for just a minute. First, where does all this money actually go? Mostly it goes to the people who own the buildings. They don't really see their walls as walls anymore. They see them as machines that print money, and the numbers are huge. The biggest, fanciest screens, the ones that wrap around a corner or seem to leap out at you in 3 dimensions, can cost tens of millions of dollars just to build and put up. And these owners waited a very long time for this moment. For decades, Times Square was actually a rough, rundown, almost dangerous place that respectable companies wanted nothing to do with. Then the city cleaned it all up, the families and the tourists came back, and the giant crowds returned. The moment that happened, those glowing walls transformed into some of the most valuable advertising space anywhere in the world. And now, here's that surprise I promised you. For a lot of companies, especially ones from places like Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, the people actually walking through Times Square barely matter at all. Let that sink in. They are paying for a screen in New York, but they don't really care about the New Yorkers walking past it. So what are they really paying for? They're paying for the video. A company puts its logo up in Times Square for a few seconds, films the whole thing with a proper camera crew, and then carries that footage back home. And that footage is what does the real work. It plays in their advertisements, it runs on big screens at trade shows, it appears in presentations to investors, it gets posted online, where employees and customers keep seeing it for years afterward. People who run these companies will tell you that simply showing their own staff a clip of the company logo glowing over Times Square genuinely makes those people feel proud, like they work somewhere that truly matters. A few seconds on a screen quietly turns into years of bragging rights. But there's a serious warning attached to all of this. The price of the screen is almost never the real cost. To get anything worthwhile out of it, you also have to pay for a film crew, a photographer, the permits to fly a camera drone, and a proper plan for how you'll actually use the footage afterward. $40 filmed on a shaky phone gets you almost nothing. The very same $40 moment, filmed properly by a professional team, can power an entire year of a company's story. The spot itself is cheap, the project around it is anything but. Which brings us to the question you're probably already asking. Is any of this actually worth it? And here is where the answer tends to surprise people, because some experts are remarkably blunt about it. They'll tell you that for plenty of companies, Times Square is basically an ego purchase, a way for the boss to feel important, and not a smart way to actually sell more products. There are 3 simple rules worth holding on to. First, the price of the screen is never the real price. If you can't also afford the filming, the photos, and a plan to use them, then honestly, don't bother at all. Second, don't think of Times Square as an ad that runs for a month. Think of it as a piece of footage you'll keep using for years. And third, before you sign anything, ask yourself one honest question. Would this exact same money make me more sales if I simply spend it at home instead? Because here's the real truth of it. The screens are real. The crowds are real. Those dazzling lights are absolutely real. But whether any of it is truly worth the money has almost nothing to do with the screen itself. It comes down to one single thing: what you do with that footage after the lights go dark, and how long you can keep that one little moment working for you.